the segment Rogue Rage. Remembering Alex Trebek. Alex Trebek is obviously the famous host of Jeopardy. He unfortunately succumbed to stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and he did pass away at the age of 80. I mean, he's just an iconic pop culture figure. So we wanted to remember him. I think he was beloved across, all latitudes.
From what I understand,
yeah,
you can't really fathom how large Alex Trebek was.
Yeah.
You can't really. Jeopardy has been around. It's part of the zeitgeist. It's
Yes.
absolutely a centerpiece of pop culture. And Alex Trebek has been doing it since I was a kid, So, I mean,
yeah,
it's monstrous. His influence is monstrous.
Yeah, and not only was his influence monstrous, or just his persona, him as a iconic figure, he spilled over into the stuff that we talk about. He made many famous cameos, and so in a way, I wanted to kind of pay tribute to some of what's that?
Like what? Cameos like?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what they are. I wanted to pay tribute to his, to how recognizable he was as a figure in the cameos that he made in several things that we, kind of loved as pop culture podcasters. He was in Cheers. He had one of the most memorable roles, which was when Cliff goes on to Cheers, and he loses. He basically, Cliff Clavin is like the resident know-it-all.
The know-it-all, yeah.
And so he eventually gets onto Jeopardy, and he's like, he's the Ken Jennings of Jeopardy. He basically just ratchets up the score. And then at the very end, they ask a question, and his answer, who are 3 people who've never been in my kitchen? And he obviously loses. And not only does he lose, but then in Cliff Clavin fashion, he's so far ahead of everyone. He bet it all and lost. So instead of being like the all-time greatest, like single like game champion or something like that.
How is anybody supposed to answer that question though?
Well, but that's the thing. Like, no, that was his answer. Who are 3 people who have never been in my kitchen? And I think the question was literally 3 people, and so he disputed the outcome of the results, which can happen.
And
he claims
things.
That's
a new thing. That's a new thing in our time.
Yeah,
that's another new thing
Alex
in our time.
Trebek goes into the bar. I remember this too. I remember watching this when I was like a teenager. He goes into the bar afterwards, and he seemingly consoles Cliff, and he said, Cliff, I threatened to quit over you because I agree you were so unfairly so. And Cliff says, well, no, we can't lose you as Jeopardy host. So I'll refrain from my disputes now. And he goes away, and George Wendt kind of looks at me. He's like, really? He goes, no, I just came here for a beer. Yeah. So iconic Alex Trebek.
Yeah. All right.
He was in White Men Can't Jump. He played, he usually plays himself on Jeopardy, and Rosie Perez made it to Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Moves that begin with the letter Q, Alex. Remember that? That was good stuff. Rosie Perez.
Vaguely. It's been so long since I've seen White Men Can't Jump, but
more
vaguely.
into our realm, The Simpsons. When Marge went $5,200 in the hole on Jeopardy, Alex Trebek voiced an animated version of himself to demand the money, because as everyone knows, you have to pay back your total when you go in the red on Jeopardy, which is not actually true, but for the purpose of The Simpsons, he was like, "Pay up, you owe us 52. You owe us 5,200."
That show would be bankrupting people more than making people rich. Okay,
did that make it? Oh, maybe that's the updated version.
Then you go to debtor's prison as soon as the show is over. Like people, it's like it's your money or your life, basically, kind of situation.
Yeah, back to the outer rims of pop culture in our world. How I Met Your Mother. He hosted $1 Million Heads or Tails. I just said that because I love How I Met Your Mother, so that was one of my favorite shows, and that was a really funny spoof because he hosted it with his trademark professionalism. So even though it was literally just they flip a coin for $1 million, like that was the whole premise of the show. It was a great spoof show, and Trebek hosted it as if he was hosting Jeopardy. SNL, he was a guest for Will Ferrell's final episode. And he joined his longtime impersonator to bid a fond farewell to Celebrity Jeopardy. So, obviously the Celebrity Jeopardy sketch, the rapist
isn't that ironic that they die back to back? Like, Sean Connery and Alex Trebek died back to back.
And finally, the most relatable to what we do, and my favorite cameo, Jose Chung's From Outer Space, episode 302. 302, I believe, or 303 from season 3 of X-Files. He didn't actually play himself on this episode, but people kept saying when they saw Men in Black, it was Jesse Ventura and someone that strangely looked like Alex Trebek in their vision of the Men in Black. So whenever they'd see an alien in this episode, the Men in Black would come and visit him, and Alex Trebek was the other Men in Black. And it was one of those like, hey, it's you. And Alex Trebek is, you didn't see us. And then he would go away. So that was my favorite cameo. So a great loss, obviously, in 2020. And we still got 2 more months to go. So,
hey, don't jinx us. I mean, we're jinxed as it is. You know, you don't have to give 2020 any ideas.
That's what I'm saying. 2020.